Hey guys, it is Christina here. For those of you who don't yet know me, my name is Christina. I am a naturopath and coach, general all-round healer. So really into whole being healing. And so with that in mind, I actually include within that healing, I include all of the things of like the physical, but also the emotional, the spiritual, and the financial. So something that I have been working on in my own journey has been my healing with the finances as well. So as I work through my own spiritual stuff of like, shifting and connecting and doing my own spiritual work, I'm also spiritually connecting in with healing that relationship that I have had with money and finances. And it's something that I have been teaching on for quite some time, probably over more in my business coaching type of space. But I thought I actually really want to bring that over here a little bit as well, because I know for many of my clients, they may have to do some significant things when it comes to healing their bodies. They may need to invest in themselves in ways that they've never invested it before. And so in order to be able to do that, they need to be able to access the finances to be able to support them with that. And so as I was pondering upon this, I was also pondering upon, what my year has been like. And if you follow me over on my business space, or if you follow me on my private personal page, you'll notice that this year was the year that I cracked the 100K mark of my business. So I earn now well over 100Ks in my business for the year. And that wasn't an easy thing to do. That was a thing that required lots of stuff from me in regards to me doing my own personal work, me connecting back into money, and breaking up with some of my old beliefs with money and changing my own mindset when it came to being able to receive finances and connecting in with, what am I allowed to have? What are the stories that keep me limited when it comes to finances? But also, as I was connecting in with those stories and connecting in with my own limiting beliefs around finances, I was also connecting in with my calling. And if you've been here on this space for a little while, I know some of you have been here like from the very early days of when I was just a mum with my kids at home blogging about our journey on GAPS. And you might be around from those days. You might have joined me later on, but if you've been around from those days, you'll know that, this page started as me writing my little blog where I talked about us doing this GAPS diet and how it was helping us and the changes and all of the things. And then you've seen me go through this transformation of just, and I'm going to say it like this, just a mum at home. Not that I mean it as a derogatory thing, but just that's how I thought of myself, as I'm just a mum. And what do I know? What do I get to do and all of that type of stuff? So moving from that space into actually I have a calling here, and I have something that has been put upon my life in order to walk it out, and going through my own journey of like going from GAPS and then having my trauma with Marcella on life support, and then moving from that space of having to re-heal my body and moving from survivor to thriver. Like that journey along the way has required a whole bunch for me in order to step into where I currently am today, where I get to do the amazing work that I get to do. Like this week, for example, one of my clients showed me her blood tests and we were looking through it and recalling where she started. And when she started, she was on, some heavy medication for an autoimmune disease. And, now she's off all of her medication. Now her blood markers are like beautiful. She would, if there was not a health history there, she wouldn't go in and get diagnosed with anything at this point, because all of that has been removed and she's done the work, and it's taken time. It's not overnight for sure. It's definitely, there's some hard yards that need to take place in that. And there's some deep development that goes on with that, along with a whole bunch of learning around food and spiritual growth and all of those types of things that went in for her to being able to create those outcomes for herself and her family. But if I hadn't have said yes, would she have had her healing? Would she have had her, journey that she's now on, where she gets to relearn how to feed her body in a way that nourishes it and makes it feel good and correct some of the things that have been going on in her health. Like, would she get to do that? And it's this recognition of, my own journey of learning to embrace myself, learning to connect in with myself, learning to forgive myself for some of the things. And I know if you've been on my money course, there's some things there that I had to forgive myself for. And in order for me to be able to call in money, in order for me to be able to actually step into the calling and the business that I have today. Because if I didn't actually start to accept money into my life, if I didn't heal some of those wounds and I didn't spend the time connecting in with, like, what's really going on here? If money was a friend, would it want to hang out with me in the way that I treat it? Would it want to spend time with me? If I spoke about it the way that, like, if I spoke about a dear friend the way that I speak about money, would it want to be my friend anymore? And starting to move from that space of, like, money is just a physical representation of an energetic exchange. And walking that journey, if I didn't walk that journey, I possibly wouldn't have or still be in business. And this is what I see with a lot of my fellow practitioners, is that they have their own stories around money. They have their own stories around a business and how it's allowed to be and what it's allowed to look like. They have their own stories around that. And what they then do is they sabotage themselves. Because if they start to be successful, then it doesn't align with the belief that they have that is true, and our subconscious is trying to consistently make us right. And so if we have a belief around anything, and this is what we talk about in Divinely Nourished, if we have a belief around, food and what we're allowed to have and how we're meant to eat, if we have a belief, our subconscious will make us right. If we believe that we're forever destined for this one thing, it will make us right, and it will help us attract the food or the people or the circumstances in order to make that correct. So from that perspective, I've wanted to start teaching in this space about calling things in. Because if I didn't step into my calling and didn't start doing my work, then my clients wouldn't always get the results that they wanted to be getting. And, maybe they would have found it in a different way because they were calling it in, but maybe they wouldn't. I know my children wouldn't be getting the experiences that they're getting currently if I didn't step into my calling. And so as I'm doing this work for me, I'm realizing and seeing more, especially because I do a lot of mentoring for other naturopaths and other healers. And, I teach coaching, so I teach people how to develop coaching skills. If I didn't step into these callings, then they wouldn't be as well. And because I'm in this privy space, I get to see some of the self-sabotage strategies that people employ. And some of those self-sabotage strategies are really simple. And it's just a matter of, oh, hang on, here's where we created this. Here's the meaning. Here is the belief. And now we get to change it. So I'm going to give you a perfect example. So one of the things that I have been calling in for my family is a new car. There's this beautiful car that we want. It is, it has the ability to do what I actually want, which is, I want a 12-seater that's going to be able to pull 3 ton. And so there's this car that I've found that does that. It's comfortable, it's luxurious, it feels really nice, but I've had some blocks around being able to call that car in. And some of those blocks are, of course, there's some financial things there. I'm like, oh, this is a lot of money for a car. And, some of those financial blocks are also things like, we are not always tidy car people. Like, I have 7 kids and, sometimes they will eat something in the car and they'll drop it. Sometimes they will go to the beach and they will take all their things and then not take them out of the car. So there's like towels in the car. Sometimes we'll go on a picnic and someone's forgotten to take the bag out of the car. There are things that happen that make us not so tidy in our car. And I'm sure, many of you mums out there would recognize that too. And so I've had this story that says we don't deserve a new car because we can't look after this one. Our car is not always pristinely clean, and it's not always tidy, and it's not always vacuumed. And, you know, sometimes my kids will take their pencils in the car and there are pencils all over the floor. And so the story has been for me that I didn't realize until I started to really dig into this. What are the blocks around me calling in this car? Some of the stories are that we don't look after cars. Now, I may have shared this here before as well, but even to the point where I realized that that story of we don't look after cars, I energetically called in a mechanic who wouldn't fix my car. So we've got this beautiful van. It's a van that I dreamed of when I was a first-time mum. I wanted this van forever and a day. Toyota Hiace, that's what I wanted. And, you know, we finally got that car when we had baby number 7. And then some stuff went wrong with the car, like the radiator was playing up, the fan that was meant to keep things cool was not rotating and not working properly. And then there was an oil leak in the car, so the car's been leaking oil. But I have been religiously going to this mechanic for the last 5 years, taking it in every single time. You know, he would say, yes, there's an oil leak, it's nothing to worry about, we'll deal with it next time. I'm like, okay, cool. As long as it's like I don't need to worry about it and I can drive around and we're good to go. And so his reply was, yes, you're good to go for that. And then finally, probably about 6 months ago, we had the car in and they said, there's a really bad oil leak. You're going to need to get under the car and clean it all out for oil so we can see where that oil is coming from. I'm like, what? Like, since when? Since when does the client go in and like clean out their car for, like, wash the engine of their car for the mechanic to be able to look at it? Since when? And they told me this whole story that they don't have a lift, so they can't lift it up and they can't do it themselves, and we're going to have to do it if we want it fixed, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh my God, this seems like impossible. I wouldn't have a clue where to start doing that. And, you know, my husband is definitely not mechanically minded. How on earth am I going to organize to get this done? And it wasn't until that moment that we actually started to pay attention to some different mechanics, and we were looking for somewhere different. For the whole 5 years, I have been driving past this mechanic and going, no, he's really close. We live in a dodgy type area. He's probably not going to be very good. He's probably going to rip me off. Like, I had this whole story about who this guy was until we finally went, no, we need this fixed. Let's just try him and see what's going to happen. So Ben went and made an arrangement and we booked our car in and we drove it there, and it's close enough that we can walk home and we can walk back to go pick the car up. It's not a big deal. And he fixed it. He like did a, you know, service for us, and then he said, this thing is wrong. We've washed the engine. He even washed the outside of our car. Like, my gosh, this guy went above and beyond what we had been experiencing for the last 5 years. And so he did all this stuff, and then I was like, great, you've done this. This is amazing. When can we book it in for you to fix the oil leak? And he's like, okay, Thursday next week, done. And so we brought it in and he fixed the problem, and it was easy. And I was sitting there, like sitting back and just reflecting upon this whole situation, because I'm like, I want this new car, and I've got this belief that cars are really hard and that they're scary and that they're, you know, anything could go wrong at any moment, and that frightens me, and like this whole big story about cars. And I had actually manifested a mechanic who wasn't fixing my car, and I was avoiding the mechanic who could fix my car because it would have been too easy. And so we play out these types of scenarios in our lives all of the time based on the beliefs that we actually have. And in order for me to start, really fully calling in the car that I want, I need to shift these beliefs to believe that we're allowed to have it, to believe that we're allowed to, access that. And this mechanic, of course, is part of my journey in doing that, because he's made cars easy for me again. And, the kids are now regularly cleaning the car because we look after cars. That's our new imprinted belief and messaging around cars. And so that we can easily step into this new car. I also need to continue to call in the money for that to happen as well. And so, again, we do all these things in our life all of the time. We're subconsciously either calling something that we want in or something we don't want in. all of the time. All of the time we are a magnet for something, either the positive or the negative. We're a magnet to something. And sometimes that can be fear. Sometimes we can have a fear that something is going to happen, and then we actually subconsciously go around creating that happening to prove ourselves right. We don't consciously go, oh, I'm going to make this bad thing happen. No, subconsciously our brain is trying to make us right. And so it subconsciously takes actions or leads you in pathways that are going to make that projected outcome actually more viable for you, that it's more likely to actually happen. So the fear of, I'm going to gain weight after pregnancy, or I'm going to gain weight after I hit middle age, or when I go through menopause, life's going to fall apart. And then actually then we sort of create and manifest that actually to happen in our lives, because that's a belief that we've had, because maybe we've watched that happen to our mother, or maybe we've watched that happen to like our mother and her 6 sisters. Like, you know, we've had stories that have happened, we've taken meanings, we've created beliefs out of them, and then we, you know, essentially implement them in our lives. And so this is where I have created my January course. Kicking off on the 1st of January, it's 21 days of calling in. And it's called The Calling, because it's really about letting yourself step into your calling as you call in the desires of your heart. Because the desires of your heart have been put there for a reason. They've been given to you because you're actually designed to have them. And so I want to take you through some of the process that I do in actually calling in, whether it be clients that I want to work with, and I have some of the most amazing clients on the planet, I can tell you now. Whether it's the clients that you want to work with, whether it is the courses that you want to be creating, whether it is the money that you want to be accessing, whether it is the vehicle like me that you want to upgrade to, whatever it is that you want to be calling in, we're going to work on that. So we're going to start this off in January, because when is the best time to start new things? January. More resolutions are followed through when they're started in January than when they're started at a later date. Doesn't mean it's impossible. That's just what the stats tell us. So the calling in is just that. It is learning that process of calling in the things that you are destined for, calling in the things that are on your heart, because the desires of your heart are designed for you to access. And I'm going to take you through that process of calling in. So the calling, hopefully, is calling you. You're welcome to come and join me. I'm going to be doing it anyway. On the 1st of January to the 21st of January, I'm going to be doing it anyway. Whether you join me or not is completely up to you. It's the process that I do for me. And it's the process that I've used to lead me into having this amazing business that I have. It's the process that I use to calling in the clients that I have. It's the process that I use to calling in the 6-figure business that I have. It's the process that I'll still be using to call in the amazing car that I want. It's the process I'll still be using to call in the amazing, house that I want. It's the process that I'll still be using to be calling in the $1 million business that I want. It's the process that I use to call in the things into my life that I actually want. And I want to give this to you. I want to share this journey with you. And so you're welcome to come and join me. It's $99 for the month. There's a VIP upgrade if you need it. But for the 21 days, it's going to be daily activations. I'm going to ask prompts. I'm going to trigger you with some things in order to help you start to see where some of your edges are, so that you can move past them, so you can break through those limiting beliefs, so you can transform and create the life that you want to actually be calling in, so that you can step into your calling and take whatever action it is that you need to take in order to be able to step into that. So for some of you, it might be that you need to do a course. For some of you, it might be that you actually just need to start believing in yourself, because you've already got a fountain of knowledge and wisdom within you. For some of you, it might just be you need to clear some of the murkiness that's in between you and business, or you and health, and you and love, or you and whatever it is that you want to be calling into your life. Some of it is just clearing up the murkiness and clearing up the sludge and clearing the waters, finding the stories and changing them, creating the beliefs, so that you can get that subconscious actually working for you, so that it is magnetically calling in the things that you want it to be calling in, instead of like this haphazardness of calling in just random things and some of it not being so great. Like me with a mechanic that would not fix my car. Like, hello. I look back at that time and I reflect and I go, what were you doing, Christina? Like, there's a guy down the road that could do it. He's very well priced. But you just kept driving past because it didn't fit with my message that cars are hard. Rachel's saying, yeah, I'm looking forward to the space, head and physical, and time to call in what I want for next year. My head isn't there yet, but everything is in my heart, and I look forward to it. Awesome. Yeah, clear stuff. Believing in myself. Absolutely. We all need to do that. And it's taken me time. Like, I sit back now and I reflect over, the last 18 years. And there are parts of me where I go, oh gosh, I wish I just had the inspiration and the courage to follow that inspired idea at that moment in time. I wish that I just had, the self-belief to know, because I probably would be here a little bit earlier, but I didn't. And it was a journey that I had to learn. And now I get to share that journey, so you don't have to spend, the time that I spent learning it. You get to just go straight to here's what we do. Here's how we do it. Here's what we shift through. Here's what we look at. Here's how we start to create the life that we want to be living. And of course, there's always going to be things that are, not optimal. But in a year like 2020, my business did way more than it did any other year. So we have the power to actually create, even though it feels like we don't. You have the power to call in and still receive the blessings, even when you feel like there is no blessing. You're still allowed to do it. You're still allowed to have it. You're still allowed to call it in. So if you want to come and join me for the calling in, the link is in the header. I'll drop the link down here later on today. We start on January 1st. You could be on holidays and you can do this. You can be on holidays and go, actually, I'm going to start a couple of weeks later. You're more than welcome to do that. Or you can go, it's January 1st, 2021. I want to shake off the dust from 2020 and I want to step into 2021 with new energy, new vibrance, and a new passion for calling in what I actually want this year. All right. Bye for now. I'll catch you later. See ya.